This episode of Hoochos is brought to you by AF Cultures. Welcome back to Hoochos. Today on Hoochos, I'm going to be taking on a tour of all the hydroponic systems that are around the property, in the greenhouse, and in the studio. I'm going to be running you through some disappointing systems, some exciting systems, some failures, and some successes. So we've got a bit of a mixed bag here. At the end, I'm going to have a bit of a personal chat about what's going on with the channel and in my life. So there'll be timestamps throughout the video so that you can jump ahead if you want to see a specific hydroponic system or a specific part of the video. So let's get started. The first system I want to show you is right behind me, and that is this system, the vertical hydroponic system. Now, it's a mixed bag of results. It's slightly disappointing, but at the same time, it has a heap of potential as well. So essentially, the system works. The plants are growing, and I've added in a float valve to the reservoir, as you can see here, and this is important. Now, this reservoir is about 100 liters, and after about 2 weeks of running, the amount of water in the reservoir had reduced about half. Now, obviously the seedlings weren't utilizing all of that. What has been happening is there are some leaks in this system. Now, I'm actually going to go through and highlight all of the problems in this system before we get to the positives. On the back of the system here, you can see one of the problems. Now, we've got very, very slow growth on the back side of this system. This is compounded by the fact that it's winter here in the Southern Hemisphere, and it has been a horrible winter. Everything is growing extremely slowly. It's actually been quite convenient for me because I've got a lot of other stuff going on in my life that I'm trying to take care of, so I haven't had to maintain the garden as much. But this is really slow growing. As well as that, if we have a look in some of the holders, as you can see with this seedling here, the cocoa pellet that I've used has disintegrated. This is because the cocoa pellets are just not held as well together, and the action of the falling water has essentially pushed all the cocoa out of this pellet, and it's just run down and into the reservoir, which isn't really a problem. The pump has a filter on it, but it is obviously a problem for this seedling because it has no rooting media. Now, this is not a problem for all of the pellets. It just depends how you place them into the holders. Some of the plants in the system are thriving as much as they will in the environmental systems that we've got at this time of the year. And as you can see on this side of the system, we have actually got a fairly decent growth rate purely because of the aspect of these plants. So I'm interested to see how this system performs in the summer months, but I'm also slightly apprehensive because I know that falling water through air tends to pick up heat, and I'm not sure how hot that reservoir is going to get throughout the summer. It's actually a problem with vertical hydroponic systems that I've read about, is more likely to pick up the latent heat within the air and take it back to the reservoir. It's like a giant radiator essentially, just like the NFT. And one more thing that I want to just show you that is happening within this system, you can see that not all the water is being kept within the system. It is actually dropping, and you can see a line along the ground here where this system is leaking a little. However, it's not leaking excessively, and I have actually set the timer fairly infrequently just so that when the system is running, it's only running for a short period, enough really just to keep the roots moist on these plants. Now, I'm definitely not saying don't build this system. It's just that the amount of time and effort that I put into this system was high, and the results are medium so far, especially when compared to something like this NFT, where you can see the results are consistent. All of the plants are growing at exactly the same rate. There is no forceful falling of water onto our peat pellets. And yes, it takes up a bit more space, but because the aspect of all the plants is exactly the same, they're all getting exactly the same amount of light, so they're all at the same level of growth. I just think that if you've got the space for this style of system, I would probably recommend building it over this style of vertical system. Or if you are going to build a vertical system, perhaps have them all facing towards the sunny aspect wherever you are in the world. So these are the cos lettuce that Rob gave me, and I did a video on recently with how to start seeds in Jiffy peat pellets, and they're doing really well. Still slow growing at the moment because, yep, winter again. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It means that they're not going to bolt and that they get adequate time to grow and they're not getting absolutely hammered every day because our summers are just so violently hot. On the other side of the NFT tables, we have this. Now this is just kind of like a mishmash of different greens. I get sick of eating just one style of green like the cos. So I planted this out with a bit of bok choy as well. One thing I will point out that is doing really well is this beautiful little specimen here. This is, I'm like 100% sure this is oregano. It is just thriving in this NFT, and it's given me an idea for making one of these sides into a herb garden, because I've really gotten into sous vide at the moment and I've been using a ton of herbs, and I really would like to have a dedicated herb system so that I can just come out, pick the herbs, throw them into my vac seal bags and cook the perfect steak. And that's kind of what I've been using this flood and drain bed as. You can see I've got more oregano within this system and a little bit down here on the NFT, and I've got thyme over in this corner. So I think in the very near future we'll be making a dedicated NFT herb garden, maybe a multi-level herb garden, because these guys don't require a ton of light and we can make it really compact in maybe a shelf style system. So keep an eye out for that video. And who says you don't need to weed in hydro? How did you get in there? So along this side, we have tomatoes in the Dutch buckets, and on the back wall here, they've been going really well, slow growing yet again, but we are coming into warmer times with spring coming fast, and I'm really looking forward to that. I love coming out to a garden that's just bursting at the seams and is almost unmanageable. So let's head out to the potato system, and I want to show you my biggest failure yet. And this is it. This is the hydroponic potato system. It was filling up from an auto valve at the end, and the design of this system is, well, a mistake. As you can see, all the potatoes are dead. Not a single one survived, and that is because we've had so much rain. It's been filling up this system and completely waterlogged all of the potatoes. They just died. There's no drainage in this system. The first few times it happened, I drained it, and then it just consistently kept raining and I could not keep on top of it. This is the result. Like, it's just a complete failure. The reason that the other system worked is because it had a rain gutter grow system underneath which wicked up, and when it rained, the water just overflowed out through that system, and I could undo the cap at the end, let it drain and retop it up with nutrients, but it never got waterlogged because the cocoa was able to drain, and cocoa doesn't hang on to more water than it needs to. So the potatoes weren't ever starved of oxygen. And that is what essentially has happened in this system. The potatoes were starved of oxygen, their roots died, the potatoes rotted, and I'm left with this. Now, it's not all bad. Now we know it doesn't work. So I highly recommend not building this system, but going with the original design if you do want to go in that direction for hydroponic potatoes. It yielded well, it was a complete success. I just thought I could recreate it within this system with a simpler design, but turns out you really do need the drainage. I think you could make this work within an enclosed environment, maybe a greenhouse where you're not dealing with rain falling from the sky. Behind me, this is the float box system. I've neglected it over the winter. I planted a few greens in here, but they've absolutely been decimated. I think the hares are getting to them and they're just cropping the tops off all of the ones that they prefer. They obviously prefer the bok choy and also the pests as well. So I've just been coming through and cropping any greens that I need from this system. But as we get towards spring, I'll start planting it out again with cucurbits and we can get this system back up and running. This is the dragon fruit system. And again, winter, so everything's gone completely dormant. This is pretty much the same place as we left it at the start of winter in the last update. Not much is happening at all with this system. I am going through and topping up the nutrient. There's just not enough sun for them to do any meaningful amount of growth. But once we hit spring, I'm really excited to see these explode in growth, and hopefully we'll get our first flowering of the dragon fruits. So let's head into the studio and I'll show you some of the systems that I've been time-lapsing inside. So what I would actually like to do is I'd like to take you on a tour of the studio, just because I've done so much work to get it to this point and I'm not sure how long I'm going to be able to keep it for. So let me show you what's been going on. Okay, so I'm going to take you on a quick walk through the studio. Sorry about the mess. So at the front we've got the junk area. I use this as storage, and this is actually going to be the interview section of the Hoochos studio, where I can have guests and talk to them about different hydroponic systems and whatnot. Behind me I've got the pool table. This is where I'm going to be doing a lot of product presentation and also playing a lot of pool with my mates and drinking beer, which is a crucial part of any studio. I've got products that have yet to be reviewed. We've got a 3D print station over in the corner here and all of my camera equipment, which I use to film. They're not actively working at the moment, but I've got a couple of projects that I want to start and they'll be working non-stop in a little while. This is my test tent, and I'll be setting up a larger test area for larger lights as well. And over here, because I like showing you everything, there are some eggplant seedlings that I had no use for and let die, so I should really take them out because they're just a vector for pests. Over here I've got some basil seedlings and they'll be going in one of the systems. Here we have the main filming area, which I've set up. I've got lights for the backdrop as well as the fill light, and this, which segues rather nicely into the sponsor of today's video, AF Cultures. AF Cultures is a company that's focused around laser cutting metal materials, custom laser cut metal materials. And I haven't seen this yet, so I'm pretty excited to see what they're capable of. So the AF Cultures link in the description will take you to their website where you can customize your own metal wall hanging for any space that you like. It's pretty obvious what I went for. I mean, I am building a studio. And it's in like a matte black too. I know exactly where this is going. That's pretty cool. So, to get your own customizable laser cut metal sign or wall decoration, head to www.afcultures.com and check out their range of options to suit whatever creative idea you have in mind. Now we can start on some of the updates to the videos that I've done recently. So let's jump straight in. Okay, so this is an update on the OxyPot XL. Above this system I have the MyGrow array, and I have to say that I've had some really good results growing with this light. At the height that it's at right now, it is too powerful, so I will be actually pulling it up. You can see how squat these plants are and how the leaves are curling. That just means that they're getting too much light because the light is too close. So I could either dim the light, which is already dimmed, so I don't need to dim the light, and we're actually going to. So you can see here I've got the driver mounted to the wall, and we can dim or turn up that light. And the way that these are hung is so that you can just use the wire that the light is connected to, and it's hung from its own wire, which is just brilliant because they're not that heavy and it's not going to do the wire any harm at all. And now it's a lot higher. Put the time lapse like that. and it's just consistent. Like at the sides 700 and in the middle 750. You've got like a nice rectangle of grow area which is perfectly sized for this OxyPot system. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to lift up the OxyPot and show you exactly what's going on inside with the roots. Okay, I'm actually really excited to show you this because I had a peek a few weeks ago, but I haven't looked recently, and I think that we're going to have some incredible results. Here, look at those roots. You can actually see where the aeroponics is happening compared to where the deep water culture is happening. You can see the water line where the roots are hesitant to go down into the less oxygenated solution, and how well that splashing aeroponic effect is actually working and supplying oxygen to the roots of the plant. That is actually phenomenal. And if we just spin that around, look at that. That is really cool. Have you ever seen roots that vigorous? And they're just so white and healthy. I'll see if I can pop one out. There it is. Whoop. Oh, why? So this system is performing phenomenally. The plants are responding really well to this hybrid form of aeroponics and deep water culture, and I'll keep you updated. We'll eventually have a full grow video so that you can see the time lapse of the plants as they grow, and I can show you a full analysis of the roots within this system. Now, I haven't touched this system at all. I haven't checked the EC, I haven't checked the pH. It's running only on the original nutrient, the way that I balanced it in the first place, and that will be in the final video. So I'm very interested to see if we can get these plants to full term on just the nutrient within this reservoir. Because if that's the case, if I can just leave these plants to their own devices, you've got a set and forget system that at this point in time is providing extremely good results. So I'm very interested in seeing how this takes these plants to full term. I'm actually going to cut back right now to a stage in the growth of this tabletop NFT system to discuss the system and what I'd change. So as you can see here, we've got some seedlings started in our Jiffy peat pellets within this miniature NFT propagation system. Now, I have had a little bit of trouble with the larger pellets being too large for the holes that I've cut. So I would actually probably recommend utilizing this system without tops on the rails. Now, you will get a little bit of algae, but nothing that's going to negatively affect the plants in the long run, and you are already getting algae on the top of these pellets. Now, I have added in nutrient to this system because I'm actually taking these plants as far full term as I can within this system, just to understand how this system performs with larger plants in it. However, this system would be perfect for propagating seeds to this point where they're pushing out their first true leaf, and then instead of gluing it down like I did in my video, you can just lift up our channels and take them and put them in whatever hydroponic system that you want to use. So this is a perfect way of managing the propagation of your plants and then placing them out into the systems that you've designed. So this system is obviously overcrowded. I've been extremely impressed with how this system has performed. I have not changed the nutrient at all, and this would be a fantastic little system for either propagation or taking plants full term. If you were to take plants full term, however, I would definitely recommend less channels, further apart spacing, but the ability to grow your own food in such a small footprint is just phenomenal, and the lack of maintenance is incredible. Like, this is exactly what I want in a hydroponic system. The rock wool is getting outperformed by the cocoa, and I think that is because of the size of the rock wool cubes that I've got in there. They're just not allowing the roots to get up high enough away from that nutrient, and they're becoming oversaturated. So I would definitely use larger cuts of rock wool for this system, and I would definitely not use the tops that I've created for this system either. I think that they're unnecessary. The tops were the biggest hassle to make in this system also. So it was a lot of expenditure of effort for not really that much gain. And I have a feeling that these plants are going to be really hard to extract from this tabletop NFT at the end, especially with their roots intermingled, as well as the size of the cocoa pellets that I used being too large for the holes. So I'm going to interrupt this time lapse to show you one of the channels within the system. Pull it out like that. Take a whole channel out like so. And look at that. There it is. That is one of the channels. They've probably advanced a little bit further than I'd like to pop them into an NFT because they've been overcrowded a little bit, but you can definitely take them out sooner. I've just been leaving them in obviously because I have no spots. So I'm gonna pop that back in and we can talk about what's happening with the channel. So to start with, I just wanna say thank you so much for your support. The mental health video had just a phenomenal reaction. So many empathetic people that had been in the same situation reached out, and the incredible show of love in the comments was just mind-blowing. I am so grateful to have such a fantastic audience. I'm happy to say that the dark days are behind me. There are definitely hard days ahead. However, I am noticeably happier every day, and having this amazing community and all of the things we're creating, the drive, the purpose has crystallized me, and I'm really looking forward to many, many years of whatever Hoochos becomes into the future. A lot of you have told me that you will literally watch the channel no matter where I am. However, I'd really like to hold on to what I've built so far and move forward into the future with it. It's still extremely uncertain. I'm in talks with a mortgage broker about second-tier lenders that will lend to someone that's had an Australian business number for less than a year. However, the outlook is very much less than certain. People have reached out looking for a way of supporting the channel, and I have considered a GoFundMe. However, I'm extremely hesitant to set up something like that because I think that I'm extremely lucky to have what I have, and to ask for more than that I feel would be overstepping. So I want to put it to my audience to let me know what you think I should do, whether I should pursue that path or whether we should just continue down the path that I'm on, even if I can't secure the property and the studio, and we will just see how Hoochos looks wherever it ends up. I will continue to make fantastic content for you guys and myself because I really enjoy doing it into the future. And I want you to know that even though I'm not as okay as I was, I am in a really good place. And I want to thank you for the phenomenal support, especially around that mental health video. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Hoochos. Happy hydroponicking, and I'll definitely see you next time.